Today on Business Growth Talks, we have Colin Hirdman, who is a seasoned entrepreneur who launched his first company shortly after graduating college. Driven by a passion for creativity and the challenges of startups, he co-founded Monkey Island Ventures with two childhood friends and a venture named after his favourite playground, reflecting his deep-rooted partnership. Currently, Colin focuses on Rainmaker, a company dedicated to assisting founders, sales executives, and business coaches in expanding their LinkedIn networks, generating leads, and boosting sales through its authentic engine. Also, Colin serves on the board of the Minnesota Blockchain Initiative, contributing to the growth and education of blockchain in the community. Hello, Colin. How are you today?
I'm doing excellent, Mark. Thanks so much for having me. Really looking forward to this chat.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for being here. We were just talking offline that the curse of having lots of different projects on at the same time. It seems like you've had interests and projects and businesses that you've run throughout your life. So hopefully we'll be able to deep dive into some of them and really find out how you've been able to grow them. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to this.
First question I ask all of my guests is, what does a business mindset mean to you?
I think a business mindset for me is really more than anything is I think optimism and perseverance. As a business owner, you don't have a false sense of optimism, but you have to feel optimistic about your ability to create things of value, things that your customers, your prospects will be compelled to want. And to me, that optimism is what makes entrepreneurship such a wonderful thing, and why I think we need a lot more of it in the world. Entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship at its core really is a creative endeavor. You have an idea, you see a pain, you see a need, and that spawns creativity, whether you're building a product, providing a service. And to me, that creativity is what really makes entrepreneurship and human beings such beautiful things. And that's, I think, for me, what a such a driver for me wanting to spread really knowledge about entrepreneurship. And then the flip side, the perseverance side, it's an incredibly difficult job. It's an incredibly difficult life decision to be an entrepreneur because it is ever present. It's really hard to disconnect from being an entrepreneur. So when you're with family, with friends, you're on vacation, being an entrepreneur does require a lot of energy. And regardless of who you are, you're going to get knocked down. You're going to have some very difficult times. And I think the hallmark of an entrepreneur succeeding over time is being able to stand up when you get knocked down and having that perseverance, because there's no such thing as a successful entrepreneur that hasn't failed. We've all failed. We've all had multiple failures. And the vast majority of the decisions you make aren't catastrophic. That's why when you get knocked down, you got to stand back up and just continue that optimistic kind of theme throughout being an entrepreneur. So that's really how I would position it.
Do you have someone to counterbalance your optimism? Is there someone in your life, whether it's a wife, a friend, a relative, who tapers that optimism?
It's an interesting question. I think in a lot of ways, I'm able to counterbalance myself with that. So I'm optimistic. I feel confident that I can do something. Part of it is probably I've been doing this long enough. Starting my first company a week after graduating from college and being an entrepreneur my entire life, I've I think over the decades now have grown an appreciation of being maybe like a realist and still being an optimistic individual. Having two business partners that I'm able to bounce things off of, where we can all be honest and truthful. We all have known each other since we were kids. That ability to look inward to myself, but then also have checks and balances with two people that I innately trust, that I've been in business with a long time, I think really allows me to play kind of both sides of that coin.
Yeah, yeah. It's only the reason why I ask is you do need to have that counterbalance because sometimes there's tough times and we need to. Sometimes the bottom line is the most important. And as entrepreneurs, we can often be excited and positive about things, but So my wife is that counterbalance, just
Mm,
full transparency. She's the one
mhm.
who's like just keeps me in check when I get excited about something, and that can come in many different forms. As I say, like a relative, a friend, a business partner. So that's why
Yeah.
I asked. Tell me one thing about your upbringing which reflects on who you are today.
I would say it's my parents. They're polar opposites in a lot of ways. They're polar opposites in personalities, polar opposites in political persuasion. They're polar opposites in like health and fitness. Like they're just very different. But what I was able to glean from each of them, I think, has made me a strong person, someone that is also empathetic. And it also allows me to see a lot of times people think you have to be very similar in order to get along. And I think a lot of people also have that false premise, even for marriage or for business partners. You can make relationships work in a lot of different ways. And I think having a foundation of core values is what matters the most. But I would say my parents, for sure, in my upbringing and the way that I see myself genetically connected to them, but then also just intellectually as well.
Mm. And are either of them entrepreneurial?
No, neither one was. I actually didn't really have much of a entrepreneurial presence growing up, and becoming an entrepreneur was something I just fell into after graduating from college. And
Hold up, Colin. Falling into entrepreneurship is not necessary. I fell into a job which I stayed with for 14 years, and I just wanted a job and it worked out to have a sort of career.
yeah,
Starting your own business is a conscious choice because you think you can make a difference, you can make a change, you can
hmm
do
hmm
something of value.
yeah.
So I'm not sure you fall into setting up your own business.
Yeah, so at my dad's 50th birthday party, this was 6 months before I was going to graduate from college with a criminal justice degree. And also understand, I had no idea almost through halfway through my junior year of what I was going to graduate with in from college. I was even thinking about dropping out of college and joining the Marines. And my dad was a Marine, and he was like, he goes, "No, you don't need the Marines. What you need is your liberal arts education. So just finish that and see where you go." And then halfway through my senior year was his 50th birthday party, and there was a guy there that I met, and he had this idea for this business that he wanted to start. And I'm like, "I'll join you. Like that sounds like a good thing. Let's give it a try." Yeah. So a week after I graduated from college, yeah, I started that business with him, and yeah, the rest is history.
And what was that business?
So this was right when the internet was starting. It was a direct mail and data processing business that then morphed into doing like web design and email marketing and custom development, and really became a marketing communications business. Yeah. I sold it in 2006. Yeah.
It was sold. What was your experience of selling a business, your first business?
I was burned out, and I was ready to exit, and was really a great choice because I didn't have an innate love for the industry. I'd done it for a decade and I was ready to be done. And that's what kind of was the springboard for me getting into business with Josh and Zach. And it was good timing, and I really enjoyed the experience of starting something from nothing and growing it into something. But I was ready for a new adventure at that point.
Tell me about the business that you started with your schoolhood friends, Monkey Island Venture.
Yeah. So I had just sold my first company, and Zach was transitioning a children's publishing company into a sale, and Josh was moving back up here from Uruguay. His dad's side of the family is Uruguayan, and the three of us was just kind of serendipity that these three childhood friends were coming into contact again, and locally, all here in St. Paul, Minneapolis, and yeah, we were just talking about entrepreneurship and wanting to start something. And so we created Monkey Island Ventures, which is named after a park that three of us played at. We've all known each other since we were about 5 years old. And we got into software as a service, kind of building a marketplace was the first business that we launched, and we raised investment. And you could almost think of it as a mashup of, in America we have Craigslist and like Facebook, and creating this marketplace, which which didn't succeed, but we parlayed that into some other business opportunities and entities that we can get into as well. But I'll pause here and just see if you had any other follow-up questions
No,
about.
no, that's great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing me. Let's move forward to Rainmaker. Why don't you tell me what it is and who you serve and how it helps people?
Yeah, sounds good. There's two main businesses under Monkey Island Ventures right now: Agurian, our digital marketing company, and Cloudburst, our software development company. And um, those companies, we have about 40 employees between the two. And so we've also launched our own products over the years, software products, while we built those companies up. And I'd been doing a lot of growth hacking really through cold email and on LinkedIn over the last 6 years. Come January, I went to Josh and Zach and said, I think I could build a real company out of this process and software that I've built out over the years and provide a LinkedIn growth service for businesses. And they said, go for it. I launched Rainmaker in January, and that's what I've been working on full time now. And I'm really using Rainmaker as a way to help other businesses use LinkedIn the way that they should be, and using automation as a way to help lift the burden of doing some of the manual tasks on LinkedIn. So, when I think about LinkedIn, I think about it almost in three layers. The first layer being philosophical, the second layer being around audience and building audience intent, and then the bottom layer being really campaigns, or how do you activate your audience on LinkedIn, right? What are the specific things you're doing on LinkedIn to actually gain traction? So, philosophically, everyone needs to approach LinkedIn with being authentic and genuine. And I think most people do. That's pretty much just table stakes. You got to be authentic and genuine, both for yourself and how you communicate using a conversational tone on LinkedIn, but then also honing in on the brands that you represent and being authentic and genuine in how you represent those brands on LinkedIn as well. The second thing is you have to come with an educational mindset. Nobody wants to be sold on LinkedIn. I think we all get those messages where people are trying to book meetings with us right away, sending us messages where they're trying to sell us right away. That doesn't work. So you have to come with an educational mindset, because although no one wants to be sold on LinkedIn, virtually everyone is willing to be educated on LinkedIn. With that mindset, you also need an experimentation mindset. So you're going to try different things. You're going to see what works. You're going to double down on those things, and you're going to continue to bring new features that LinkedIn is promoting and building into the platform, and continue to try and use that experimentation mindset over time. And then the last thing, and this is, I think, maybe the most important thing, which is you have to understand the pains and the barriers your prospects are trying to overcome. You need to know what it is that they want to be educated on. And most importantly, you have to know what it is that you can teach your audience that they want to learn from you. And if you can crack that nut, I think any business can be really successful on LinkedIn, but you have to figure out what it is that your audience wants to learn from you and what you can teach. So that's my philosophy, really: being authentic and genuine, having an education and experimentation mindset, and then figuring out what it is your audience wants to learn from you. So I'll pause there, see if you have any questions before I jump into audience.
Well, we can go in so many different directions with it. I am incredibly frustrated with people sending me like never spoken to people or just first connected and then wanting to sell. I don't understand why people do it, because I can't imagine the return is very
Yeah,
good at all. Everyone I speak to either ignores or doesn't respond at all, or just says no. So it's interesting that people are still hammering on that door. But I love that whole idea of being authentic and educational, because what I found success on LinkedIn is really talking about podcasting, whether it's from a podcaster point of view as a host or podcast guesting as a service as well. And some people aren't aware of podcast guesting as you can hire someone to do that service. So
yeah,
I've spent 2 years at least trying to educate people on that. And what's really interesting about, you've got to take it as a long-term strategy as well.
that's right.
Like, I released tons of posts about podcasting and podcast guesting, and I still get outreach from people wanting to know more about the podcast guesting service. So
Hmm.
that whole idea, and it is authentic to me. I do love podcasting. I love the medium. So I think it's really important, and like just delve a little bit deeper into that from your point of view. When you're looking to do that educational piece and bridging into sales, what are the ways that people can do that? Is there a strategy of how many posts you should do? Because I've heard things like you should have a carousel once a week, you should have a poll once a week, you should have a couple of written posts, you should have a couple of video posts to keep the variety of different content that you're providing. How do you, when you're helping your clients, how do you help them with the type of posts that they should be putting on LinkedIn?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a pretty strong demarcation line between what I'm doing with Rainmaker and then what my clients are doing themselves. So when my clients are working with me, I am not assisting them with their LinkedIn profile, and I'm not assisting them with their organic content. So the posts that they're doing and things like that. What my clients are helping me do is helping to build out an audience, right, of the kinds of people that they want to start connecting with. And then they're providing me with content. And then I'm using automation to serve that content up through some of the tactics and strategies that I'll talk about. But it's all within LinkedIn. That's one of the things that I love about the transparency of Rainmaker is that I'm not doing anything outside of LinkedIn. I'm using LinkedIn functions, but what I'm doing is that I'm automating certain things within my profile or my client's profile to start achieving results at scale using LinkedIn. So with audience, the way that I'm typically building out audiences is within Sales Navigator. And I'm finding really good success building out Sales Navigator. For anyone that doesn't know, Sales Navigator is the sales tool that LinkedIn provides, and there's a monthly fee for that. I think it's around $100 a month for that. When I'm working with a client, if they don't have Sales Navigator, I'll use mine. But it allows you to use a lot of different filters and really hone in on the companies and the people that you want to start building connections with. Then there's a couple of areas that I've been thinking about audience intent. Like, how do you start to identify people that are further down the purchase path? One way is using LinkedIn events. So if you go to a LinkedIn event that one of your competitors is doing, or maybe there's an industry organization that's doing a LinkedIn event on a topic that your business solves for, if you go and attend that event, you can see everyone else that's also attending that event. And then you could extrapolate actually out an audience of people that are within your geography that have certain titles. You could even start to hone in on some of the other filters that LinkedIn has through the LinkedIn search filters. And what that allows you to do is to start focusing on people that, if for you, Mark, maybe there's a competitor or somebody doing something about like podcasts, right? And how to get on bigger and better podcasts and what types of things you should be thinking about as a podcast host. If you were to go to some of those LinkedIn events that other people are doing, you could actually pull out people that are founders that are located in the UK or located in the US or et cetera, because they're publicly raising their hand and they're saying, this is who I am and I'm interested in this topic, right? So you can use LinkedIn events as a way to start identifying intent of prospects that are already further down the purchase path for a product or service that your business provides.
So what piece of Sales Navigator do you automate? Because I use Sales Navigator and I find founders, and then I do connection requests just to connect with them, and then I don't immediately sell. If they accept the request, then I'll then just, as you say, educate and try and teach them
Mhm.
what they need to know about podcast guesting. How do you automate Sales Navigator?
Yeah, Sales Navigator is purely the audience builder, right? So we're building an audience there. What I'm then automating out is really the first thing that I do with myself or any client, which is to start growing out your network of first degree connections. So once the audience is built, then we go into a cadence of reaching out to connect with that audience. So reaching out to 25 people a day, Monday through Friday during normal working hours. So 125 people a week or 500 people a month. And we're typically not using a connection message. So we're just trying to connect. And we're getting anywhere from, I'd say, like a 15 to a 40% connection rate back. And it really just depends on the audience. I'll have some clients where one list is performing at like 18% and another list is performing at 32%. We're using these audiences we're creating an ever-growing network of ideal client profiles, the kinds of people that they want to be connected to. And if someone doesn't connect within 30 days, we'll withdraw the invite. So we'll rescind the invite, take it back. Then there's a 3-week period of time where you can't re-invite that person to connect, but that allows you then to create these pools of people that you could reach back out to at a later date. Because many times people aren't connecting. It's not they don't want to connect with you. It's just your alert gets pushed down. They don't see it. And so it's just good hygiene to withdraw invites after 30 days. And that cadence of 125 people a week is also nice because it allows you to still connect organically. If you go to an in-person networking event and you want to connect with a few people at the event, you're still not hitting the upper limits of what LinkedIn wouldn't want you to go over. So that's really the first foundational thing that we do, is start growing out the network. Because to your initial question around like content and posts and all that, you want those posts to show up to your ICPs. As you're growing that audience over time, it just gives you a larger audience of potential people that would see those posts that you're doing. So that's the first thing that we put in place, is growing out the network.
Who are your ideal clients?
I would say my clients really span industries. So I have solopreneurs, fractionals, all the way up to person companies, and I have 7 other salespeople on Rainmaker. So I think anyone that is sitting in a sales or marketing seat and they want to better leverage LinkedIn through a authentic and educational process is an ideal client. So there's 2 other um, strategies that I want to get into, but I'll pause here again, Mark, just to see if you had any other questions on what I've covered so far.
We can cover those two things in a minute. I'm
Yeah.
just interested about LinkedIn and your business model. Do you think LinkedIn, with over 1 billion users now, is saturated?
No, there is so much room to grow. Honestly, I get the question from some of my clients, what if my prospects aren't on LinkedIn, right? So one of my clients is a manufacturing company, right? And they're going after other companies that need specific parts manufactured, right? And they weren't sure whether or not their prospects are on LinkedIn. And I said, I can almost guarantee your prospects are on LinkedIn. And whether they connect back with you or not, we'll have to see. Just know 90% of the people on LinkedIn are lurkers. They're not posting content. They're not doing anything, but they're going there. They're looking at the content. And LinkedIn is a monopoly. There's no other business social networks. So when people want to think about business oriented content, LinkedIn is really the place that people go. And it's growing by leaps and bounds globally. So you're in rare company when you are posting content and when you're doing it thoughtfully and when you're curating an audience thoughtfully. Yes, I think there's just tons of room to grow still. And I think Microsoft bought LinkedIn, and they are going to continue to put massive resources into that because it's already delivering a good return for them.
What's some of the common mistakes, misconceptions that that your clients have about LinkedIn and how you can help them on LinkedIn?
I think a lot of my prospects, they're not sure how to begin to create a pipeline of like leads and sales. And they're so focused on the posting part of LinkedIn, the organic posts, which that is important. You still need to do that, but that's really all they see. They're not thinking about some of the other ways that they could leverage LinkedIn, which again are just the beauty of what I'm doing with Rainmaker is I'm not doing anything outside of LinkedIn. I'm just automating aspects of LinkedIn, which to me is more around, I would say, the relationship building, the one to one outreach. It's not focused on, and I think most people, when they think about social networks, they think about connecting and then organic posts, right? They think about, okay, what post am I going to do and how many likes and comments am I going to get on that? I'm not even focused on that with Rainmaker. And so I think that's something that businesses need to hone in more, is thinking about in as more than just an awareness building tool. It absolutely can be used to drive leads and sales if you use it the right way.
So, so a client comes to you and says, "I want to use LinkedIn. I'm not really leveraging it. What can you do to help me build an audience and
Mhm.
build and sales from LinkedIn.
Hmm. Yep. Yeah. Me, um, the way that I've set Rainmaker up is to almost be like a white glove SaaS. And for those entrepreneurs out there and aspiring entrepreneurs, starting a service company is a wonderful way to start generating revenue right away without having to put all this time and effort into a product and giving a product only experience and then coming to realize nobody really wants my product and now I just spent all this time and money on something and now what do I do? Okay, I've been there. We have built SaaS products where we had no customers, we weren't even talking to anyone. We just thought it was a good idea and so we built it and it failed. There were other times where we would talk to people and we would tell them about our product idea and they would say, oh, I would use that. I'd love that. And you build it and they still don't want it. And it's incredibly frustrating running a business that isn't generating revenue. So what I like about Rainmaker is, yes, I have software and I have process, but it's in the back end and the interface is with me. And so I'm interacting with my clients and I'm providing it as a service. And then my pricing is right up on the website. It's almost like a SaaS where it's $199 a month if I'm growing your network and then withdrawing invites after 30 days, or it's $499 a month if I'm doing that plus like 11 other campaign types. There's no contract. It's just month to month. I've tried to make it the model transparent and also just the way that I'm talking to you about how to use LinkedIn, making that transparent because I want entrepreneurs to be successful. I want sales and marketing people to be successful on LinkedIn. And I don't care if they use Rainmaker or not. What I'm sharing with you and will continue to share with you throughout this podcast, I think are very tangible things that your audience can do and they can do everything that I'm going to be talking about today. And I've already talked about manually. You could go and follow 25 people a day. You could go build an audience through regular LinkedIn search or Sales Navigator right now and start connecting. The other strategies we'll talk about, they can also do themselves. But to me, that's what's so compelling about LinkedIn is people's ability, I think, to really grow their business with it. And the way that I've set Rainmaker up as a service, I think, is just working out really well.
Yeah, amazing. What? How do you use LinkedIn? How are you using LinkedIn every day? Is it part of your sales and lead strategy as well?
I'm using LinkedIn the exact same way that my clients use LinkedIn. Although I would say some of my clients probably do a better job with their organic posts than I do. I'm still doing organic posts a few times a week, but um, I'm using LinkedIn the exact same way. So I'm targeting specific audiences. I'm growing my network with those audiences, and when when I have an audience and I'm starting to connect, and I'm doing this for a lot of my clients as well, it's very typical to bolt on like a messaging campaign. And I think you even talked a little bit about that already, where the way we have it set up is after someone connects with you, 1 to 3 days later, send an authentic thank you message, right? Do not try and sell. Don't even try and help. Just thank them for the connection with no other expectation. I also think when you're using LinkedIn, as someone that sits in a sales or a marketing seat, and I don't care whether you're a solopreneur or whether you're a VP of sales at some big company, we have to emotionally disconnect when we're in the act of selling and trying to get someone to buy from us. If we focus more on the educational part, the buying will come. And that's a very hard thing to do. I've sat in a sales marketing seat my entire life. I know what that feels like. And so with the messages, what I've told my clients is that first message needs to be a thank you message. If they reply, that reply goes into the LinkedIn inbox, and you want to make sure you have LinkedIn turned on to notify you every time you get a new message. Then you don't have to keep going back to LinkedIn and checking to see if you got messages. So if the reply comes, it goes into the inbox. And if there are other messages set up, those will stop because a reply has come in. And then you just take that conversation wherever it goes. If they don't reply, then a week or two later, you send your first message, and that needs to be really value focused. Okay. So maybe you're asking them a salient question. Maybe you're inviting them to participate in a poll you're doing. Maybe there's an asset that your company built that you want to share. Maybe there's an asset that another company built that you would want to share with them. Maybe there's an event that you're doing, an in-person event, or maybe a live stream event that you want to invite them to. Okay. Once you have that first connection, it opens up a plethora of opportunities to leverage different LinkedIn features and functions to get them to start interacting with you in an authentic relationship building way. And so that's really messages to and on really need to be focused on adding value to that person's life, to their work life. Okay. And that's really the basics of grow your network, send them value added messages. And one of my clients, he'd been growing his audience of HR people for years now. We just did a one off discrete message campaign where we're messaging these HR people about a new asset that he had just built out and posted up to his website, right? That's like a discrete campaign where you're messaging people out. Or so anyway, so messages and growing your network, I think, are fundamental. And what the other strategy I wanted to make sure we talked about today were LinkedIn live streams. I think
Okay.
LinkedIn live streams may be one of the best B2B um, marketing sales strategies that I've ever seen. And again, one of my companies is in digital marketing. And so I very much know SEO and the paid media landscape as well. The thing about LinkedIn live streams, number one, LinkedIn wants way more people doing them. Okay. LinkedIn is a social network. It's still competing for attention against a lot of these other social networks. LinkedIn will help you promote your live stream, and it's something that's available to everyone. LinkedIn live streams can be done from a company page or from a personal page. The only difference is with a company page, you can ask people to register where they have to put in their email address, and then you get a download of everybody that's registered for your live stream event. But that's also a barrier. People might not want to put in their email. So it's a business decision, something that you can experiment with on whether you want to just keep it just someone pressing the attend button or someone clicking register on a company page. If you create a live stream from your personal profile, then you don't have that option. You only can have the option of people just clicking attend. And the way that, and I have a one page PDF that I'll send you, Mark, after this, and you could potentially share that with your listeners. And it's mapped out my entire process. Again, that's what I love about Rainmakers. I'm not doing anything outside of LinkedIn. And the process is number one, building an audience, right? Identify an audience of people that you want to educate, that you want to teach through a live stream. And then you need to create the topic. Okay. So there's two topics that I'm using for my live streams, and I'm going live almost once a week. One is learn how to grow your network leads and sales on LinkedIn. And then a second one, which I created after realizing how great live streams are, is learn how to do LinkedIn live streams, right? I'm teaching people how to do live streams through a half hour LinkedIn live stream. Then you got to go and create the event. Okay. You create the event on LinkedIn, and it's super easy. And you identify it as a LinkedIn live stream event. And then after you create the event, then you want to start promoting it. Okay, you need to get attendees there. The first thing that I do is I will send out LinkedIn event invites. Okay, that's an actual function within LinkedIn to invite people to an event that you're doing. It could be a live stream or in-person event, an audio only event, right? But you can invite people. And so then I'm automating out LinkedIn event invites, but you can do it manually if you want. And then there's an option after I do that of following up with everybody that you've invited and sending them a message. Minnesota blockchain initiative that I'm a part of, we had a big event last night. I created a LinkedIn event for that. I sent out a bunch of invites to about 1,000 people. But then I followed up with a message and said, "Hey, Mark, I invited you to, or I sent you an invite for our upcoming blockchain event. Not sure if you saw it or not, but in case you missed it, here's a link to the event. Hope to see you there." I don't do that very often. I don't use these follow-up message that often. But they will help your attend increase. Okay. After I've started sending out invites, then you can also promote it on LinkedIn. You can create organic posts about the event. You can promote it through LinkedIn groups. You can promote it on your website. You can promote it through an email campaign. Most people are always logged into their LinkedIn account. So by providing that event link, they click it, it opens up LinkedIn immediately, and then they have a decision on whether they want to hit attend or not. Then
So,
after,
Colin, just a quick
yeah,
question with LinkedIn Lives.
yeah,
You need to have an outside platform like StreamYard to be able to do LinkedIn Lives, don't you?
that's exactly right. Yep. And so the day of
I just wanted my audience to know that you can't just log in and click a LinkedIn Live. You need to have that supporting software to be
that's
able to be able to record on it.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and I actually use StreamYard, and it's, yeah, I think $40 or $45 a month. Then so the day of,
So, Colin, just on this, what
yeah,
do you find? So you're on my podcast. You're on other podcasts, I'm sure, as well.
yeah.
What has been more valuable for you as a person, as a business owner, as you grow in your business, LinkedIn Lives or podcasts? Because it's one of the challenges that I have is that I'm producing content for YouTube as well as the podcast apps as well. And I'm producing all this content here. Do I need to do LinkedIn Lives as well as recording one, maybe two, or releasing one, maybe two podcasts a week as well?
Hmm. Hmm. I would say if I had a choice, I would do LinkedIn Lives. The reason is I'm honing in on a specific audience that could be my customer. I'm
Mm,
picking out topics that I believe they want to be educated on. When they click attend, they're now giving me a vote of confidence, right? They're saying, I believe that I trust you enough that I'm going to click the attend button. I see you as a thought leader or someone that I can learn from. And I'm also going to do this in a way that lets you know who I am, right? When someone clicks attend on your LinkedIn live stream, you see all the attendees, right? And everybody
mm,
can see everyone else that's attending that event. But the beauty, really, and the magic of doing these LinkedIn live streams is the follow up. So when I'm done with the live stream, I follow up with a message to all the attendees and I'll say, hey, Mark, thanks again for registering for the LinkedIn live stream I led this morning. Here's a link to the recording. Okay. And the event now, that recording lives on LinkedIn forever. And then underneath that, I'll say, if you ever want to chat LinkedIn strategy, feel free to grab some time convenient for you here. And I give them my Calendly. Okay. For any B2B, it's imperative that you have a meeting. People aren't going to buy from you until they talk to you, until they learn about your business and your process and if you're a good fit. And what those live streams are now allowing you to do is I can send these who now see me as someone that they trust my Calendly link. And I'm sending it in a way that it's not salesy, it's not pushy, it doesn't feel icky. It's a natural next step. It's saying, look, you just learned from me and you opted in to want to learn from
mm,
me. Here's my
mm.
Calendly if you'd like to continue a conversation one on one. And that to me is where a lot of the value of doing these live streams is that I'm transitioning attendees to prospects that are having a conversation with me. And now I'm
Yeah,
using LinkedIn as a way to actually generate leads and I'm generating sales from this process as well. And so to me,
yeah,
that's the beauty of it. Yep. And then the
makes
other nice
perfect
thing
sense.
too is that there's a long tail effect that will happen with these live streams where all these invites that you've been sending out through the LinkedIn event invite function, um, sometimes there's a percentage of people that won't see that invite until your event is over, right? And so people are clicking in and then they're watching the recording. And so I'll probably get anywhere from 2 to 4 times as much time and people watching my recording than I did on the live stream. So it's
Wow,
just a really nice play on LinkedIn.
amazing. Thank you for explaining that. How do you think you've evolved as a leader?
That's a good question. Um, I can definitely say that I'm more patient and more patient probably with other people. I'm not sure I'm not sure as that patience might not be for myself what it is for other people, but I
Well,
think I'm a lot more patient with other people. I think one of the things that I heard early on in my career was, you know, as the owner of a business, you're always on stage, right? Your employees are always looking at you for direct and indirect cues of how to behave and how to act. And I think that's a really important thing and something that I've gotten a lot better at over the years. And I think the other thing too is not taking life too seriously, remembering that the people that you're leader are also human beings and we're all emotional, and bringing in empathy, bringing in inspiration, connecting the work that you're doing in meaningful ways so your employees feel like the work that they're doing has more intrinsic value in it is really important. I would say
How
those
have
are.
you? Yeah, amazing. How have you kept your best people in Rainmaker?
Right now, Rainmaker is just me. So I don't have any employees. So I'm using all of the automation and my process on the back end, and I'm scaling it up with just me, which has been really nice. At some point, I'm going to have to start bringing people on, but that'll probably, I'm sure it will be sometime next year. But right now, it's just me. It's, yeah, but yeah.
Amazing. What would you say your risk appetite is?
You want to give me a scale?
Now, I suppose to think about it maybe in the sense of how has it evolved your risk appetite over the years? So obviously starting a business just out of college, out of
Yeah,
university,
yeah,
you were incredibly risk. You had an appetite for risk there,
yeah, right,
starting
yeah.
a business,
Hmm.
but you've obviously started multiple businesses over the years.
Yeah,
Do you think your risk appetite has changed, and would you say that it's still high now?
I would say my risk appetite is still high. I think what I've learned around starting businesses, especially those that are in the SaaS tech space, is much more likely to start one of those businesses now as a service and start building out a client base and like coddling together the back end. As long as I'm delivering the results, the clients don't care how it's done. And then building out the product. And with Cloudburst, our software development company, we're leaning a lot more heavily into AI and building MVPs, minimum viable products, using AI that costs a lot less, that can start to prove the model for our clients much, much faster. I would say that my risk appetite, I'm no longer in the mood to just say, oh, that sounds like a good idea. Let's just go build it. I'm more of the mindset of, okay, can we figure out how to address that pain, build something within a matter of days or a few weeks, and then start putting it out there. And then the sales side, the marketing side, which a lot of entrepreneurs don't really want to do, but you have to be able to do that, leaning more into that and trying to starting to build out a customer base that way. I will say, just generally speaking, though, you know, you can only do so much research before you have to take almost a jump off the cliff or a blind faith attempt. And you talked about real estate, and I started to invest in real estate back in '08 after everything crashed here. And I was never in real estate, but I ran some numbers. I'm just like, my God, for you get a duplex, you rent out half of it, and that pays for almost the entire mortgage. You get the other
Yeah.
both sides rented out, and you're in the black. And my mom did not want my dad and I to take out home equity lines on our homes and was saying we're going to lose all our money. And we did it anyway. And we bought a bunch of properties. And then in 2021, I refinanced a bunch of my properties and I took a giant chunk of that and I put that into Bitcoin and Ethereum. But I had been investing in the blockchain space for years before that. So I'm willing to take on risk probably before most people are willing to take on risk, but I also have grown tired of taking on risk in ways where I'm not generating revenue quickly because I've done that before. I've built businesses
Yeah,
that just
I think it's a really interesting, and I 100% support it, because a lot of people who are building SaaS products, they get investment, they celebrate investment, they build it out, they're still not bringing any revenue in. They may get another investment round and they're still building it. I love the fact that you're actually like, let's get some clients, let's prove it as a model that it
absolutely,
actually works, bring some revenue in, that then validates the product in the market, and then we then build it from there. So many
yeah,
people in that tech space are just looking for the next round of investment to be able to build this wonder product, but actually building it, testing it, validating it in the market, and then growing from there
yeah,
is, yeah. Well, I've always been in service-based industries, so I
yeah.
100% love the fact, because you're validating it. You're not just It's not just a concept or an idea that you're going to have a successful business.
That's exactly right. And you're going to have to even with Rainmaker, like I started literally from nothing. And I'm like, I think other business people, I think sales, marketing people would want some type of automation that really want to grow on LinkedIn in an authentic, educational way. And with my pricing, I'm just like, this is what I think people would be willing to pay, but I don't know for sure. And I put it out there, and yeah, people are paying for it and they're seeing value in it. And yeah, so I think, like to your point, there's risk in everything you do in business, but you mitigate that risk by gaining experience. You mitigate that risk by generating revenue. You mitigate that risk by proving the model in the marketplace. And that's really the most important thing.
Amazing. Look, we're coming to the end of the interview. I asked the same 6 questions to all of my guests. They're quick fire questions. They don't need a quick fire answer. The first question is, what's the best decision that you've made?
Going into business with my business partners, Josh and Zach.
Is it
So I,
always split three-way? So Rainmaker, you're under your umbrella of Monkey Island Ventures?
yeah. So Josh is the president of Agurian. Zach's the CEO of Cloudburst, and I'm the co-founder of Rainmaker. And yeah, it's yep. Everything kind of funnels into Monkey Island Ventures, and we split it completely evenly, and always have since 2007. Yep.
Amazing.
Yeah. So
Great story.
the one thing I'll say there too, really quick, is having other people on your journey is such a wonderful thing, to share the highs and the lows, to be able to have business partners that you innately trust, that you can talk about really anything with. And we even came up with the 5 F's of finance, family, friendship, freedom, and fun. And those are the 5 F's that we live by, and the core values
Love
that
it.
we created years ago.
Love it. Absolutely love it. What's the best decision? What's the best advice you've been given?
Um, lots of good ones. I don't know why this one sticks out so much for me, but I don't know if you know who Guy Kawasaki is, but he was an early like Apple guy, and he was helping get the word out about Apple in the early years. And he also was like an early investor mentor, I think, for Canva and things like that. So he's written books and whatnot. But we actually heard him talk when I was in my probably early 30s, and he just said one of the things like, don't listen to the bozos. And there's so many people out there that are naysayers. There's so many people out there that are completely and utterly risk averse, that for us entrepreneurs, it can be very difficult sometimes to get outside of that and to still feel confident and optimistic about your vision. So that's what I would say. Don't listen to the bozos. Do your diligence. Go with your heart and with your gut. Doesn't mean that you don't have mentors. It doesn't mean that you don't have business partners or other people in your circle that you can trust. But those people that bring you down, keep those people as far away as you can.
Saying in the UK about real estate, which is I think everyone has a friend like that. You'll have a friend in the pub or someone you see regularly that will tell you everything you need to know about real estate, about
Hmm.
property, but they've never bought a property,
Yeah,
any investment funds. You always got that bloke who's always going, "Oh, I think you should go and do this," and
right.
you're like, you've never owned an investment property in your life. And there are those people out there, whether it's business, investing, whatever it is, who like hearing the sound of their voices, not necessarily coming with anything to back it up with.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's so much noise out there. There's very few people actually doing the work, and that's the hard work, but it's the work that more of us need to do.
Who's helped you most in your career?
I mean, I would probably again say my business partners, Josh and Zach.
Can't name your business partners, someone else.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a very good question, because we don't have advisors. I've never been one really to lean in on mentors. Yeah, that's a great question. In the business community, I know I have a lot of peers. Yeah, I have a pretty tight knit circle. I mean, if it's not them, it would probably be, sounding board of my dad. He wasn't an entrepreneur either, right? So it's more, he's a psychologist. So maybe that's why.
Wonderful.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, that's a great question. I think part of it is there's so many of us that are entrepreneurs and we have peer groups, right? So with my first
mm,
company, I was in a CEO roundtable group, right? And
right,
we would
mm,
get together once a month and we would all talk about our businesses and the issues that we're having and getting
mm,
kind of peer mentorship from each other. And there's a lot of
mm,
us that have been on those journeys as a single founder. Having Josh and Zach there, and having been in business together going on 17 years, we still scrum every single morning on the phone. We get together once a week for an hour and a half to 2 hours in person, right? And talking
mm,
about business. I get that outlet all the
yeah,
time. And,
yeah.
but maybe there's also a fault on my part of not I haven't gone out and looked for like a business mentor, and maybe that and maybe I should have, and maybe that would have made life easier for me. For everybody that's listening, absolutely have mentors in your life. My business sounding board and mentors over the last 17,
It's your
18 years.
business partners, which makes sense. Next question. Tell me about a regret that you have.
It's funny because I get the emotional feeling of beating myself up and regret. It's a fairly common occurrence. Like it's a daily occurrence of not doing things right, or like, why am I not doing it? Didn't I do this here or there? I would say my biggest regret is when I make decisions emotionally. I've made some business decisions that I shouldn't have. One, there's a time when I sold a piece of property and I shouldn't have done that. It was a bad decision and I regret doing that. I think back in like 2010, I regret not taking other people's money and really blowing up the real estate business at that point in time. I could have made money on other people's money. That's a regret. Certainly have specific regrets on the different SaaS products that we've built where we didn't vet the market and we just built before that. But a lot of those things I think are also based on emotion. And so I think allowing yourself the headspace to distance yourself from the emotion, look at it as pragmatically as you can. And I think that's also an opportunity to bring in other people as a sounding board to help you look at a situation. So but yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. What are you most proud of?
I'm most proud, I think, of not swaying from my core values or who I am as a person, and perseverance. uh, it's just incredibly hard being an entrepreneur. Uh, you're constantly up against challenges. Even when things are going well, you have challenges of thinking about, okay, things are going well now, but what about 6 months from now or 2 years from now? So, how do we prepare ourselves if things take a turn? My ability to persevere through the hard times. And it's not that there aren't times when I'm like, oh my God, like, how do I keep going? But it's at that point in time where you rely on yourself, you rely on your experience, you rely on your loved ones and your friends, and you pick yourself back up and you keep going. And I don't know if it was like Churchill that said, if you're in hell, keep going. Something, I don't remember exactly what the quote was, but if that's really it, what are your options? You just have to keep going. And that perseverance, I think, is a hallmark of any successful entrepreneur.
Absolutely. Tell me something that most people don't know about you.
I've never had to create a resume. So I feel that's a pretty fun one. So
That's
yeah.
amazing. That's amazing. That's wonderful. And what does legacy mean to you?
It's so funny you bring that up. Mike Tyson just had that huge boxing match. I
Yeah,
don't know if you saw the
yeah,
interview
I
he
do.
did with like that 12-year-old girl. Then
Yeah,
he's talking about legacy and it doesn't mean anything. And we're just dirt and dust and then it's over. And what does it matter? And there's an absolute element of truth to that I agree with. But I do think legacy in a lot of ways represents what you did while you were here. So in that vein, I want people to look back and see that hopefully to some degree I was an inspiration as an entrepreneur, that I was someone that they could trust and look up to as a business partner or as a boss. And I think part of my legacy, there's things that I still want to do, I think, around as I get closer to retirement, around the environment that I feel very much attached to, which I got from my grandparents and my mom. And so I think there's some things that I want to do with my legacy as well. But I think anyone that thinks about legacy, it's just a simple way to think about the things that you did while you were here that you want to be remembered by, as small or as big as you want those to be.
Amazing. And lastly, where can people find you if they want to find out more about you or your business?
So rainmakergrows.com is the site. If you hit free consultation, that books time directly with me. I'm on LinkedIn, the only Colin Hirdman, Hirdman on LinkedIn. So I'd be happy to connect with you there too. And I would just say to any entrepreneur, aspiring entrepreneur, if you ever want to talk entrepreneurship or if you ever want to chat LinkedIn, feel free to reach out to me. I do not expect any sales from those conversations. I'm very much low pressure in that way. The world needs more entrepreneurs, and I would be more than happy to chat with anyone that has questions along either of those two subjects.
That's amazing. Thank you, Colin. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been really inspiring to hear about your journey and your businesses, and good luck in the future. But thank you so much for being on my show.
Thanks so much, Mark, for doing this. I really appreciate it.